just cruising home now. Picked up the 2019 Mustang GT. 300A accessories on it, active exhaust, and the Power Pack 1. We'll be home about an hour. Okay, so I got the Mustang safe and sound home. First ride back from the dealership, and first thing I want to do is get rid of the sound tube delete. It goes right in here and then comes up and goes into the firewall back there. And what that does is it adds sound from the intake tube inside the car, and my exhaust is going to be loud enough that I won't need that on there anymore. So ordered some stuff from CJ Pony Parts, and then as you can see, my tires are here, but Discount Tires sent the wrong tires, so the rear tires, these are wrong, so they're sending them a tag different back. Okay, inside the Pony Parts, I got the sensors for these wheels. Oops, sensors for the wheels, and I just bought a little delete kit you can buy to get rid of that sound tube instead of, you can make your own if you want, but I just bought the little kit there. And then this is the mount for the end gauge for the tuning that we'll get. And all right, I'm gonna get started here by removing that sound tube. Okay, so I finished up the sound tube and ate a little dinner in between. These were the instructions. You really don't necessarily need a kit, but it was $10, and it comes with a little plug there. Actually, let me turn on my flashlight. So it comes with that plug right there and the clamp. And then it also comes with that plastic plug down in there. And what you remove is that part goes to the firewall, and you remove this huge monstrosity of a piece that goes from one side all the way to the other. It has, most of its push pins. There's one clamp on the front intake tube by the air filter, and then there's this one nut that's on the firewall that's a real pain to get to. It's hard to get to. It's got a long stud on it. It's 10 millimeter, and there's the whole piece that's removed. So now it'll no longer take noise from the intake tube and transfer it into the car. Just extra noise, in my opinion, into the car that we don't need. Okay, a little update here. Rims and tires are gone, and I put on the MRT H-pipe resonator delete from CJ Pony Parts. You can see that's where it clamps in right there. Boop, 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 and clamps in right there. This has active exhaust on it. I didn't take my exhaust down. I just tipped it down, undid the rear, you can see it right up through there, the rear mount, not by the mufflers, but up by these tailpipes here. There's two screws, you take them out, 13 millimeter, and then drop down the front here, and then cut right here, which removed the resonator, and then you just put this section of pipe back in. And it sounds really good. And I'll show you what the resonator looks like. I held mine up and marked it, and then measured. They said 6 1/4 inches from the resonator, and it was the same exact measurements. So here's what that looks like. I won't do that. And this is right where I cut. So they say measure 6 1/4 from here down to each pipe, and then cut them off. Again, they tell you to remove the whole thing. I just did it on the car. And here's the other side, wheels missing. And that's an update for today. Another update here. Did a little badge change around, both on the side and the pony, and the other side. Project Blue Dini. Okay, Project Blue Dini. Little update here. Changed the front springs, took the stockers out, and put in some new springs. I'll give you a little bit of light. There's the new springs. A little bit shorter than the stock ones are, and went in easier than they came out. I did take the cables off, take the sway bar. So this cable, when I say take it off, just undo the clips, and then undo the sway bar bracket, and then undo these two bolts right here. And you can't turn this side. You can't turn the actual bolt side. There's two of them there. You cannot turn those. They're splined, so you have to hammer them out. Lots of videos on that. And I took off the brake caliper and the disc beforehand. Put the jack underneath it, lowered it down as much as I could, and then just took a little bit of pressure off it. Undid the nut up here, and then I actually attached a bracket right to here with a piece of pipe, and then lowered the jack down, because once you get out of the splines of the top, there's nothing holding the top, and it still has quite a bit of spring pressure. My 2011 didn't have that much spring pressure, and I was able to take the top bolt out and fold the rotor down and get the brake out. I found that from CJ Pony Parts, that little trick. Can't really do that here. I think the geometry is just different. It's got too much pressure on that top bolt. So I just lowered it down, holding it with my, holding the strut with my little holder there, and stood back, and slowly let the jack down until it took the pressure off. And there was still just a hair bit of pressure, but really nothing, just the weight of it. So let's not even call it pressure. And then undid the two bolts and pulled the whole strut out, put the new spring on, put the new bump stop on, and cover, dust cover, and then started with the bottom, put the bottom two bolts in, and got everything all lined up, and slowly put the jack up and kind of moved that strut around until it came back up and popped through the hole. And as soon as I got a thread on, I put that nut on, so then I was back secure where the top of the strut wasn't going to pop out or anything like that. And then jacked it up the rest of the way as I kind of like shook the strut a little bit to get the rod to come up through the hole. Really, once you get it started, it comes up through. And then just once it was fully seated, then I tightened the nut at the top and came down to the bottom bolts, tightened those up, put the rotor back on, put the caliper back on, put the cables back on, and on my way, after I had it tightened, on my way down, I put the sway bar mount in. Just undo that one. And that was it. And then I moved over to the other side. Other side went twice as fast as the first side. It was just a little bit sketchy coming down with that spring, having not done it on this car before. Now next one, same. I would still make that kind of bracket. Basically, it's like a clamp that goes around the strut, and then had a piece of pipe coming off it, and so that you could steady the strut so that it wouldn't move around this way. You could basically just hold it straight, and I let the jack down. I don't know, you could use an oil filter rubber strap or something like that. You could use a pipe, a clamp, all different kinds of things. I don't know, so come up with something creative. It doesn't really have to be that much. It's just really to push on it so that it doesn't come popping out. Anyway, that's Project Blue Dini, and Blue Dini, and gonna move on to the back springs. Okay, another Project Blue Dini update. Got the rear springs put on. They're black, they look the same. Let's see, quick rundown. Undo that bolt for the brake. undo the 2 shocks. At the bottom of the shock, there's 2 more bolts. Shock comes out. One of the issues I had is I had the jack stand up underneath that, on that member, and then found out that, well, I'm going to be taking the bolts out of that, so I can't have the jack stand sit on it. So I moved my jack stand over to right behind the pinch weld there. My jacking rails haven't come in yet, so it would have been nice to have before I started this whole thing, but they were on back order from CJ Pony Parts, so then I moved over to American Muscle and got them from them. So they're on their way. Let's see. So to do this, you have to undo this bolt, undo 2 bolts over here, and then on the back side, undo this bolt here. Like I said, take that, got your shock. Make sure you have your jack underneath here. And slowly lower it down. Spring, you end up having to kind of have someone stand on the lugs and then pull the spring out. I ended up, the bottom moved over just a little bit, and then I was able to get the top cup off, and then the spring came out. Oh, I also undid this. This just slides up, just to give it a little bit more slack. And put the new spring back in. Make sure you line up the spring. All the pockets have little rubber little stops built into the rubber, so just line those up. Get your spring put in right. I took the jack and brought the car all the way back up. And well, once I could get these started, I hand started them, and then I raised the jack up and hand started all the bolts, and actually was able to take and hand put them all the way up to where they needed to be, and then just with the wrench, torqued them down from there. That way that things weren't, we make sure nothing binds that way. You're using the force of the car to lift it all the way up, put it into its spot, not tighten it with the bolts and bring it back into the location. Put the shock back in, and then I put the bottom mount in first on the shock, and then the top ends up being a little bit higher than these. So you have to step on the lugs and sneak the shock up underneath those 2 screws sticking out, and then put the bolts in and tighten everything down. And that was about it. Not too bad of an install. You definitely got to have, I got an impact that helps a whole lot, and the right size wrenches to make sure that you can get it done. All right, well, next step is just waiting for some parts. I gotta wait for my wheels, and I gotta wait for my tires because Discount Tires sent the wrong tires. They sent me NT05s, and they're supposed to be NT05Rs, the drag radials. So, waiting on those. I guess in the meantime, I could probably do a little bit more cleanup. Car from sitting on the lot, it had some dust and stuff on it, so how can I go over all the nuts and bolts and anything that I see that's got a little bit of rust on it, or can I get a surface to prep it up and clean it up and make it look nice. Thank you. Till next time.